Authorities are currently investigating this illegal dark website to see if this is fact or fiction.
Warning, this site is not for the squeamish. Viewer discretion is advised.
I really love the Saw movies. The first is a terrific piece of genre cinema made against the odds on a shoestring budget. Saw 2 is a very solid horror thriller that is actually the template for most of its copycats. Saw 3 is a very fun game section, even if it's let down by far too much of the movie being Jigsaw lying on a gurney, coughing gently and wheezing, "Amanda! Amanda!" While the second trilogy, 4 through 6, where the series becomes a goofy horror soap opera, Forrest Gumping the new Jigsaw, Detective Hoffman into the previous movies, and with the now-deceased John Kramer becoming Murdered Jesus, and predicting everyone's every movement for years after his death, leaving tape recorders and traps everywhere, seemingly having worked out what flavour of Pop-Tarts the ever-growing cavalcade of characters would be having for breakfast every morning from beyond the grave. I just love those movies. I'd even give a special shout out to Saw 6, which not only starts with the most hilariously intense opening of the series, but is also the first to not only explicitly spell out that Jigsaw's victims shouldn't and wouldn't be grateful for surviving his lunacy.
Look at my arm! What am I supposed to learn from this? Look at me!
As well as finally pulling the trigger on the series as a critique of the American healthcare system, as a health insurance exec is the one put through the Jigsaw ringer, being forced to reckon with the fact that the profit motive in healthcare is economic exploitation of people when they are most in need and least capable of finding extra funds. My love for the series even extends to its clones and knockoffs, like the collector films, which are both terrific fun in their own ways, coming from the writers behind those later Saw sequels. And it's a shame they never got to complete the trilogy. Some might take issue with me calling 13 Game of Death a Saw clone, but I love it, so I'm mentioning it here. Although I am less fond of its American remake, 13 Sins. And I am seemingly one of the few who enjoyed Would You Rather, although that may be largely because I love Jeffrey Combs as much as I love the Saw films. So it could have just hit a personal sweet spot. I could even mention Cheap Thrills, which pared down the concept to its barest bones and used it to explicitly critique how the rich exploit the working classes. A fun little film that really didn't get the attention it deserved at the time. And my love for the series makes even the worst of the knockoffs, at a minimum, watchable. I happily sat through the Melissa Joan Hart Saw clone 9 Dead. If you didn't know that was a thing, it's probably for the best. I got a kick from House of Nine, which is inexplicably not a Saw clone, and actually came out 6 months before the first Saw movie. Then there was another British effort, Shame the Devil, which was elevated by Doug Bradley's attempt at a Jigsaw voice.
Hello?
Hang up again and you will die.
Now listen to me.
Even if the rest of the film was utter nonsense, predicated on this guy being completely irresistible to beautiful women. Most recently, I gave an hour and a half of my not-so-precious time to the Ed Westwick starring Dark Game, which was barely better than fine even for a connoisseur such as myself. One glaring omission from my Saw clone watching history is The Reconciler. I'm aware that most call that the worst Saw clone, and I'm sure I'll get around to it. But I'm here making this video because while watching Dark Game, I realised it had the exact same plot as another Saw knockoff I had seen a few years ago, one that may take the title as the worst of its kind, but one which I, both ironically and unironically, had an absolute whale of a time watching. 2022's Death Count, also known as Numbers. If you want to know the plot, well, have you seen the film Saw? If so, you probably know broadly how this goes. A group of people are held captive by the non-copyright infringing warden and forced to carry out dangerous tasks to stay alive. And for the first treat this movie has in store, we need to ask the question, who plays this warden? Well, have you seen the film Saw? Yes, that was Tobin Bell, a fine character actor even before the Saw movie cemented him in popular culture, and somewhat fortuitous casting on the part of Juan and Juanelle, and the series as a whole, who originally intended the role for Mike Butters, who turned it down in favour of dying in a razor-wire trap. No, the makers of Death Count obviously couldn't afford Tobin Bell for this micro-budget slice of murdered cheese, and neither could they afford the excellent Shawnee Smith who played Jigsaw's first assistant, Amanda. The deaths of John Kramer and Amanda in what was originally intended to be the final chapter of a Saw trilogy left the makers of Saw 4 in something of a pickle. In need of a big twist reveal for the grand finale, but with limited options as to who was available to make a new Saw movie every year as the series became an annual Halloween tradition, and which characters from earlier films hadn't already been killed off in gruesome ways. They settled on Costas Mandylor, who was ploughing a furrow as a ruggedly handsome bit player in shows like Sex and the City, and who isn't to be confused with his brother Louis Mandylor, who was Joey's pretend twin in Friends.
How are you doing?
And it seems availability and a small asking price have again led to the gravel-toned Australian beefcake capturing a small group of people and forcing them to do terrible things to themselves in the name of entertainment. Costas is actually really game in this role, hamming it up and showing a lot more personality than he did as Mark Hoffman in the Saw series, who he played a little bit like a mannequin on wheels, and who I never really bought as a trap-building super genius. Although it should be noted that roughly half his lines here are counting down from 10.
10. 6. Return to the monitor.
As those playing this game of death, we have B.J. Mezek, a sadly underused Robert Lasardo, Devaney Pinn, who, if you guessed, would inexplicably take off her clothes. Well done. Denny Nolan, who, and if you'll forgive me for setting this up, in one round of the game has to pull out his own tooth, leading to this absolute belter of a scene.
Disrupt the game once more and you will be eliminated, number 1.
And by the way, I'm quite aware that the tooth you pulled was a prosthesis. You lost that tooth years ago and had it replaced
With a painted acrylic one. It was a fake.
So, you told us we could use any tooth of our choosing. I was still playing by your rules.
Enough!
What the hell? This isn't water.
As well as Wesley Cannon and, as our lead character, Sarah French, who, if you guessed, inexplicably gets her norks out during the film's big climax. Again, well done.
Then do it. 10,000 likes, remember? Fine. Is this what you want?
So far, and so what? This sounds like every other underwhelming Saw knockoff, but this movie has a secret weapon. Have you seen the film Saw? Most of the Saw films consist of two intertwining narratives. The game sections where characters try to escape from devious traps, and a parallel story of a cop or cops trying to catch Jigsaw. In the first movie we have Danny Glover, in the second Donnie Wahlberg, while 4 and 5 had zombie Jason Lee. And it's here where Death Count unveils its crowning glory. Michael Madsen. That's right, Michael Madsen from Reservoir Dogs, Michael Madsen from Species, Michael Madsen from Kill Bill, Michael Madsen from The Hateful Eight. And let me tell you something about Michael Madsen. Michael Madsen is shit out of fucks. Michael Madsen appears to have turned up drunk. Michael Madsen looks like he's been in a fight. Michael Madsen clearly hasn't read the script. Michael Madsen is eating a banana. Michael Madsen needs his potassium. Michael Madsen has questions.
Honestly, what am I doing?
It's connected.
Michael Madsen is delivering lines like,
I think the whole thing is a hoax.
and
Killed another one.
I think so. That looked real to me. That looked fucking real to me. Wow.
and
It's no joke anymore. I thought it was a joke before. Believe me. I'm gonna get it.
Michael Madsen may have needed to get somewhere right after filming, so for a good half of the movie, Michael Madsen is in a car, for which the only explanation is,
We gotta do it, man. We gotta go.
I think that I might be able to find this guy if we can find one of the stronger signals.
Okay. So what does that mean?
Road trip.
Okay. You're driving.
which leads to lines like,
Okay, now listen. I don't want to waste a bunch of gas driving around.
and
They just killed Coach Roberts online.
Okay, listen. We need some answers. We need them right now. How do we find this fucker?
I know.
Michael Madsen was apparently eventually convinced to get out of the car, although he was clearly not happy about it, leading to, yes, more questions.
Who the fuck is this?
And
Where the hell are you, bastard?
we get the big showdown we've spent the whole movie waiting for.
Congratulations, gentlemen. You arrived just in time for the finale.
Go ahead. Make a move, and I'll blow your goddamn brains out.
Okay, I won't.
Making movies is hard, especially on a small budget, and I'm not about shaming films anyway. I honestly had a lot of fun watching this, and how goofy it is at times is just part of the charm. It isn't high art, it's camp cheese. I'm not going to say they embraced it or it's particularly intentionally comedic, but come on!
We have to get this guy, and we have to shut down this site. You know what would be good is if we did it today.
I'm just getting too old for this shit.
If you can't have a laugh with a few friends watching stuff like that, then you're missing out. I'm not going to say that the people making this didn't try. I think they made the most of what they had. And there are even attempts at thematics, and overarching points about the impact on social media on society is, well, it's definitely there.
Friendship needs to be earned and not just retweeted. That's not where friendship comes from. It's not something that comes out of social media. It's something that comes from a different place, a different time.
Yeah, you're right.
As well as comments on the impact of violent films, although that seems like an incredibly weird point to be making.
Films like Saw and Hostel have now led the way to a website capitalizing on this brand of quote-unquote entertainment.
While the motivation for the game section of the film is revealed to be the closure of creative arts programs in schools, specifically the cancellation of a student play to save money, which is actually very real and reflects an underfunding of education in general, that these choices have to be made in the first place. If there aren't well-funded arts programs, maybe people aren't going to learn how to act, or even make movies at a high level, making this film the exemplification of its thesis. Fund arts programs properly, or death count.
I'm getting reports that some guy's head just exploded on the internet.
My God, the internet. It's always the internet. Every time I go online, my head wants to explode.
Everyone has to learn somewhere, and there is nothing wrong with a bit of schlock, which Death Count director Michael Sue is seemingly embracing, as he recently helmed Snow White and the Seven Samurai with Rampage Jackson, and is in post-production on Bikers vs. Werewolves with Jake Busey, which you can only hope are half as fun as they sound because I am strapped in and ready. Should you check Death Count out? Yeah, why not? If you've got a few friends who enjoy goofy nonsense, it's a brisk 1 hour 20, and most importantly, it's got Michael Madsen giving absolutely zero shits.
I do. Tanner, in my office,
Okay.
now.
Gonna finish that banana?
Here.
Thank you very much for watching. This was just a fun little video. If you got a kick out of this, maybe check out some of my other videos, which are sometimes fun and sometimes serious depending on what I fancy doing. Don't forget to like and subscribe because the warden demands it, so it's thematically relevant. Comment below if you have a favourite Saw knockoff you think I should check out, or for any other reason you feel like, and yeah. Thanks guys, hopefully I'll see you next time.